So finally did it. Took 12 years. I, Todd Lee, have turned IFBB Pro at the North American this year. Said it took 12 years. I had done, I think, 6 or 7 pro qualifiers. I'd won 3 of them, and for some reason never turned pro. This time I finally won and turned pro. So, what did it take? What did I do? What was different about this problem? We being me and my other personalities, focused on the same policy and procedures that I had been using since 2010. That I had gotten a Justin Harris hand-me-down diet in 2010, which worked a lot like the type of diets I had used for years before I found bodybuilding. When I got into bodybuilding, I was taught about old school and how science isn't real and doctors don't know anything and forget everything you learned in school and only we know what we're doing. And that's how bodybuilders thought, and they were completely fucking wrong about everything. And Justin Harris had a very educated, smart approach that was very similar to what every scientist would say in a lot of respects. And I was like, okay, this is a lot simpler. And it was pretty much, I used tilapia and rice. And it was approximately 250 carbs and protein and about 200 carbs. And then I got away from, and then I got 4th place at the North American that year in 2010. Got away from that. 2011, used the Dave Palumbo approach, which was like a keto diet. Worked great. I was shredded, but I was dry and gross looking at the national championship, and I think I was 15th place that following year. I did win the Michigan though that year. That was the first time I won the Michigan and was state champion in my weight class. And then in 2012, I won the North American using the same pretty much procedure as I did for 2010's North American. And that was a lot harsher. That was 45 minutes of fasted cardio on the stair mill and 45 minutes fasted cardio in the evening. The same basic procedure of cutting products and the same tilapia and rice as I did in 2010. I won the North American, did not get the pro card. Worked with some terrible coaches after that for a few years. Eventually got with Aaron Messer as a training partner, who was the most shredded person I'd ever seen. And we went back to pretty much an approach that I'd used before. He liked more keto, but this time he wasn't an official coach. He was really more like a training partner, and he gave me tips and advice. And I integrated his skills with what I knew worked for me, which was a high carb, zero fat diet. I did not like the putting butter on everything but no carbs. Just made no fucking sense to me scientifically. It didn't work for my workouts, it didn't work for my body. So I stuck with what I knew worked, which was 250 and 200. In fact, I left out a year. 2015 worked with Dave Reed. Dave Reed was working with Justin Harris at the time. Did the 250, 200, 40 approach. I didn't add the 40. I counted the 40 that came from the food as my 40. So in other words, the fat from the food is your fat. You don't actually add fat on top of that. So I would just, if I needed to hit 40 grams of fat, I would go with a fattier cutting food than cod, rather than taking some fish that's $9 a pound and pouring oil over it. To save money, I would use chicken thighs, or I would use ground beef. And I would pick the appropriate ground beef for that. And I was shredded, did great, won the Michigan again. Then cut with Aaron 2016, won the Michigan again. 2017, won the Michigan. 2018, won the Michigan. 18 and 16, I didn't stick to my diet. The gear didn't change. The training didn't change. Nothing changed. I just didn't stick to my diet. Looked soft, looked like shit. 2019, stuck to my diet, did the same procedure, came in hard as nails. The best look I ever had was when I won the Michigan June 8th of 2019. July of 2019, I didn't stick to the diet. I basically started going off the reservation, even turned up some of the cutting stuff. It still looked like shit when I won Masters Nationals in the over 40 and the over 35. Yeah, I won a national show, but I don't like how I looked. This year, took a very similar approach. The cardio was a lot less hard. I was doing 2 hours of walking outside, started adding an hour of the treadmill in about 4 weeks before the show. Did not do the stairs, did not do the bike, did not do the arc trainer. The heart rate was about 105 for my cardio. The heart rate was not 130, 140 for the cardio. Nothing else was really different than that. The carbs were there. I think that one of the bigger differences was had high carb days every 5 days, and they were 800 carbs to 1,000 carbs rather than a high carb day being 400 carbs or a cheat meal. These were 800 to 1,000 carbs every 5 days with a cheat meal. So the high days were every 5 days rather than every 7 days. And it was a high carb day with a cheat rather than a high carb day or a cheat. And the high carb was a higher high carb. Everything else stayed the same. I feel I came in softer than I did at the Michigan of 2019, but I came in harder than I did at Masters Nationals of 2019. So where I think I could have improved my look at the North American was to have either a more moderate high carb day without a cheat every 4 days, maybe 400 carbs every 4 days. So 200, 200, 200, 400, 200, 200, 200, 400. I think that might be a different approach to take. This year I did work specifically with Justin Harris because it had worked with me so many years in the past. And I will say that his peaking protocol was phenomenal. That we put on a lot of mass in the off season by decreasing my volume and decreasing my frequency. I was hitting one set of 6 to 8, then a back off set of 10 to 12, then next exercise, and I was only working out 3 days a week. Push, off, pull, legs, off, off. 3 days out of 7 I lifted, only 2 sets per exercise. One of the 6 to 8, one of the 10 to 12. There are some variations. That's the general formula. Versus something more like a bro split, which is 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, 3 sets of 10. I think it worked better off season, put on size, and then I think that the cutting phase went very well, and the peak went perfect. I think that the idea going forward would be to not have the cheat meal and the high carb day, either have a cheat meal or a high carb day, or decrease the amount of carbs of that high carb day. That would be where I think it would be. I really think that the peaking went perfect. Peaking was simple. It was 8 liters of water every day, and then we dropped to 2 liters on Friday, the night before the show. Part of the problem was trying to make weight from 190 to 175. I had to pull a ton of water out, made weight Tuesday, looked great Wednesday, but the show was Saturday. We thought that I may not make weight on Tuesday, it might take several days, so when I took my first stab, I couldn't make weight. In retrospect, changes that could be done with that was to have, would be to have only 4 liters of water, not 2 liters of water on that Friday. So 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 4 rather than 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 2. I think that would have looked better. That's, I think, the only thing to change. That as I was about 6.5% body fat, if I was 4.5% body fat, wouldn't have had to pull out any water at all. Likewise, now that I'm a pro, I don't have to worry about making weight ever again. That I basically am going to have to make 212 pounds. That would be very easy. Right now I'm standing here at 190, not in an off-season recomp phase. That I recomp for about 2 weeks at about 5,000 calories a day. Then I dropped to a week of 4,000, and this week at about 3,000. Because I had a guest posing this Saturday at 317 Industrial in Belleville at the Nicole Wilkins. But this video will probably come out after that, so it's not really relevant. And that covers that. Got the peaking down, got the cutting down, got the off season down. So from there, that's how I turned pro at the North American. That the only improvement I would have seen available would have been to try having more water that day, but you never know how you're going to actually respond until you try out a specific experiment, you collect the data, you make a change for next time.